here with Miss Cathy Brooks. Cathy, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So I teach people how to tell better stories. So think of it as method acting for business people. I coach, I'm a strategic communications coach, which essentially means I work with businesses and individuals, helping them deconstruct their professional narrative and make it more powerful.
So why don't you tell us a quick story about how you've encountered the whole concept of failure.
I love failure. I love failure. I think that for me, the biggest lesson was unraveling failure from humiliation, because I think that's one of the reasons that people are afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to feel like a loser. And there's a quote from a fellow named Leonard Shlain. He was an author. He was a physician, world-renowned physician. And he had a quote that said, if you're not living life on the edge, you're taking up too much space. To me, it's the signature file of my email, because to me, unless you are pushing the envelope and really pushing the edge, you're not really testing yourself and you're not really seeing how far you can go. It's very easy to get comfortable. But in comfort, there is no real success. I mean, I suppose for some people there's a degree of success, but when you're talking about the people who are populating this conference at FailCon, when you're talking about the people of Silicon Valley, you're talking about people who are looking at magnitudes of scale of success. You're talking about people who are looking at 100 times on investment or what have you. So you asked me for a personal story. So I think that there isn't a single moment in my career that I look at and say, that was a mistake. I think that some of the greatest mistakes for me were the chances that I didn't take. It was more, my errors aren't about, oh, well, I went and worked at that company and shouldn't have. I actually had a job, a great job, with a company called Remedy Corporation. This is back in 95, 96. And it had just gone public. I had a lot of stock. The stock was doing great. The company was growing by leaps and bounds. And I was doing really well. It was just as the bubble was starting to expand, so 96, 97, into early 98. And I got an offer to work at a startup company in San Francisco, the offer of a large amount of stock. I was, I think, the third employee hired. These beautiful offices right on the waterfront. They spent a ridiculous amount of money on a launch. And the company failed miserably. Never even got off the ground. All of the stock that I had was completely and utterly worthless. You might think that leaving a company that continued to be very successful, where the stock would have made me even more money had I stayed and accrued more of it, invested in more, that was a mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a failure, because to me, the lessons that I learned and I took away from that really exponentially grew my career. It exponentially grew my expertise level. It grew my relationships. It grew my network. And it's a bit of a badge of honor. Failure's a bit of a badge of honor.
That makes a lot of sense.
And so to me, failure is not taking the risk. And there have been a number of times where I said, you know, I'm too comfortable right now, or this is safe, or I have, benefits, I have all these things, which isn't to say that those things aren't important, because they are. You need a roof over your head, you need food on the table. But at the end of the day, unless you're pushing the edge, that's the biggest failure.
Definitely. I totally understand what you're talking about. So when you are having one of those days where, say, you go work at that new company and then it goes under and you're feeling really bad, what's the best way to bounce back?
Well, everybody has their own personal ways of doing such a thing, and I encourage people to always find the things that help you ground yourself. And it sounds a little airy-fairy and it sounds a little loosey-goosey, but it really is true that unless you're able to be clear and focused, you can't really operate well. So for me, that is disconnecting from technology. I turn off my phone, I close my computer, I walk away from the house, I walk away from all connection to the outside world. I usually walk my dog somewhere. I'll take him to the beach, I'll take my journal, I'll take a book, and I completely disconnect from the digital realm so that my brain can recalibrate.
I think that's a kind of a pattern that we're starting to notice while we're doing these interviews, is everybody has mentioned that when they're feeling bad about failure and they need to kind of clear their head, they kind of walk away and unplug. So I do yoga. Paul, who we just interviewed, takes walks. You walk your dog. So
I do.
There you go.
And I go to the gym.
Go to the gym. Perfect.
Strong like
Well, thank you so much, Cathy. We really enjoyed having you on.